Hello, fifth grade. It's Mrs. Wright, Thief of Always, chapter 17. I know you're waiting with bated breath to find out what happens because yesterday the door slammed shut on them. Sorry for the appearance here. I went for a walk and I forgot that I hadn't done my reading for you, and I have to do my assignments too. So, got my hat on, went for a beautiful walk today. Hopefully you got outside. Anyway, let's find out what's going on with Harvey. This chapter is called Cook, Cat, and Coffin. So, this could be a little tricky. Let's see what happens. Great to have you back, boy, Ritkus said, his smile as wide as ever. I told everyone you wouldn't be able to stay away. Nobody believed me. He's gone, they said. He's gone. But I knew better. He started to wander towards Harvey. I knew you wouldn't be satisfied with a little visit, not with so much fun still to be had. I'm hungry, Wendell whined. Help yourself, Ritkus grinned. Wendell was off at a sprint into the kitchen. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, he hollered. Look at all this food. Harvey didn't reply. Aren't you hungry? Ritkus said, raising an eyebrow high above his spectacles. He cupped his hand behind his ear. That sounds like an empty belly to me. Where's Mrs. Griffin? Harvey said. Oh, she's around, Ritkus said mischievously, but she's getting old. She takes to her bed a good deal these days, so we laid her down somewhere safe and sound. As he spoke, there was a mewling sound from the living room, and there at the door stood Stew Cat. Ritkus scowled. Get out of here, he spat. Can't you see we're having a conversation? But Stew Cat wasn't about to be intimidated. He sauntered over to Harvey, rubbing herself against his leg. What do you want? Harvey said, going down on his haunches to stroke her. She purred loudly. Hey, that's fine and dandy, Ritkus said, putting off his anger in favor of a freshly polished smile. You like the cat? The cat likes you. Everybody's happy. I'm not happy, Harvey said. And why's that? I left all my presents here, and I don't know where. No problem, said Ritkus. I'll find them for you. Would you do that? Harvey said. Sure, kid, said Ritkus, persuaded that his charm was working again. That's what we're all here for, to give you whatever your little heart desires. I think maybe I left them upstairs in my bedroom, Harvey suggested. You know, I think I saw them up there, Ritkus replied. You stay right here. I'll be back. He took himself up the stairs, 2 and 3 at a time, whistling tunelessly through his teeth as he ascended. Harvey waited until he disappeared from sight and then went to check on Wendell, letting Stew Cat slip away. Ah, now look at this, a voice said as he appeared at the kitchen door. It was Jives. He was standing at the stove as swiny as ever, juggling eggs with one hand and tossing pancakes in the pan with the other. What do you fancy? He said. Sweet or savory? Nothing, Harvey said. It's all good, Wendell piped up. He was almost hidden behind a wall of filled plates. Try the apple turnovers. They're wonderful. Harvey was sorely tempted. The buffet looked wonderfully tempting, but it was dust. He had to remember that. Maybe later, he said, averting his eyes from the heaps of syrup-drenched waffles and a bowl of ice cream. Where are you going? Jive wanted to know. Mr. Ritkus is finding a few presents for me, Harvey said. Jive smiled with satisfaction. So you're getting back into the swing of things, kiddo, he said. Good for you. I've missed being here, Harvey replied. He didn't linger, just in case Jive saw the lie in his eyes, but he turned and headed back to the hallway. Stew Cat was still there, staring at him. What is it? He said. The cat took off towards the stairs, then stopped and cast a backward glance. Have you something to show me? Harvey whispered. At this, the cat bounded off again. Harvey followed, expecting her to lead the way upstairs. But before she reached the bottom step, she veered off to the left and led Harvey down a narrow passage to the door he had never noticed before. He rattled the handle, but the door was locked. Turning to look for Stew Cat, he found her rubbing her arches against the back of the leg of a small table set nearby. On the table was a carved wooden box. In the box was a key. He went back to the door, unlocked it, and pulled it open. There was a flight of wooden steps in front of him, leading down into the darkness from which a sour, dank smell arose. He might have declined to descend had Stu Cat not hurried on past him, down into the murk. With his fingers trailing on the damp walls to the left and the right of him, he followed Stu Cat to the bottom of the flight, counting the steps as he went. There were 52, and by the time he had ascended all of them, all his eyes had become reasonably accustomed to the gloom. The cellar was cavernous, but empty, except for a litter of rubble and a large wooden box, which lay in the dust maybe a dozen yards from where he stood. "What is it?" he hissed to Stu Cat, knowing the creature had no way of replying, but hoping for some sign nevertheless. Stu Cat his only answer was to run across the floor and leap nimbly onto the box, where he began to claw at the wood. Harvey's curiosity was stronger than his fear, but not so much stronger than that he dashed to pull off the lid. He approached as though the box were some sleeping beast, which for all he knew it was. The closer he got, the more it resembled a crude coffin. But what kind of coffin was sealed with a padlock? Was this where Karna had been laid, perhaps after the beast had dragged its wounded body back home? Was it even now listening to Stu Cat scratch at the lid, waiting for release? As he came within a yard of the casket, however, he laid eyes on a clue to its contents: an apron string, left hanging out of the box by whomever had locked it. He knew of only one person in the house who wore an apron. Mrs. Griffin, he whispered, digging his fingers under the lid. "Mrs. Griffin, are you in there?" There was a muffled thump from inside. "I'm going to get you out," he promised, hauling the lid as hard as he can. He didn't have the strength to break the lock. In desperation, he began to search in the cellar, looking for some tool or other, and found himself two sizable rocks. Hefting them, he returned to the casket. "This is going to be noisy," he warned Mrs. Griffin. Then, using one stone as kind of a chisel and the other as a hammer, he assaulted the lock. Blue sparks flew as he struck the metal, but he seemed to be making no impression until all of a sudden the lock gave a loud crack and fell to the ground. He paused for a moment, a feather of doubt brushing his brow. Suppose it was Karna's coffin. Then he threw the rocks aside and hauled off the lid. And that's that for today. I know you're hating me right now, but that's all for today. All right, boys and girls, have a great day. Get outside and play and enjoy the sunshine. Go for a walk. I took my camera out today and took pictures of nature all over the place. So anyway, have a great day. Bye.